All right, friends, I'm giving you 10 ways to prep for an ultra marathon. I'm gonna focus on 100 milers because that's kind of the gold standard, but I'll modify some things to 50K, 50 mile, 100K, a little bit to 200s, 200 mile. But here's some just keys to success, top 10 tips for how to prepare for an ultra marathon. First of all, you can do it. You may not think you can, but you can do it. And with the proper training, you can enjoy it or enjoy most of it. So that's the goal. Can you come to the start line ready to roll, fully prepared, so that you can have the best experience possible and know how to troubleshoot the issues. That's what I'm about to give you, a top 10. Here we go, bam. To train smart. Don't just go out there and do empty miles. Don't just run as far as you can and as far as you can. You got to map out a schedule, build a calendar, have peaks and troughs and rest days. You gradually build. I like to build up each week, kind of crescendo each week, and then rest days, and then crescendo a little higher and crescendo a little higher. So it's an overall rise in the graph. Different people do it different ways. Mix up your pacing, do some speed work, parabola splits, all that kind of stuff. You got to mix up your training, strength training, cross training, all that's so good for you and is only going to help. Number 2 is that you need to train in the race conditions. That means the weather, the terrain, the elevation. You can't always do that when you're training in Quebec for a race that's going to be in Florida. It's difficult. Try as much as possible to train in the conditions of the race. It makes a huge difference. You don't want to be blindsided by rocky terrain when you haven't been practicing or training. Tip number 3 for preparing for an ultra marathon is increase your mileage gradually. Most people are going to go too fast from the 10 mile max to 15 and think they need to run a 60 mile run before they do 100. Not necessarily the case. You should increase your mileage gradually. Make your longest run 9 miles this week, kind of crescendo up to that through the week, and then rest day, and then build back up. Maybe the next week your long run is 10, 11 miles. Go up to 12, next week 13, next week 15, drop back to do a 10, go up to 16, and just keep progressing that way for your long runs. You might also do that by time and just say, hey, I'm going to spend about 9 hours doing this race, whatever it is, 50 miler, 50K, whatever. And so I need to just gradually increase my distance training by time. So I'm going to do a 2-hour run tonight. I'll do 2 hours and 20 minutes next week, etc. You get the idea. Increase gradually. If you go too fast, you run the risk of overuse injury, which is very bad. Tip number 4 is do your homework. You've got to study the course, study the race, read the runner's manual, memorize it. Most of you guys do this anyway when you're getting excited and you're nervous about it. I love to do it. Read race reports, talk to other people. Tip number 5 is you need to train your brain. This is a mental game, and you've got to have the mantras. You've got to be prepared for the bonks. You got to do all that mental training. I have another video that's about how to mentally conquer a 100-mile race. You can see that video for more information, more ideas about that mental piece, but you really need to exercise that brain for race conditions, just like you're exercising your body for the race conditions. Number 6, you have to gear up. I know you can do it with the duct tape, and I'm a duct tape athlete, but you are going to pay, it is going to pay to have the right gear and to be comfortable with your gear. So you need to practice with it. I'm out here practicing today. I've got the El Reto del Indio running across Panama in just over 30 days. So I just loaded up all my pack with all my gear. I've got all my race gear in it. I've got my poles, and I'm just testing everything out. And that's what you got to do. Number 7 is you need to practice eating. This is an eating contest, especially a 100-miler. It's an eating contest. How much can you eat when you feel miserable? Because every calorie counts. So you need to practice that. So run after dinner. I know that sounds terrible to a lot of people. That's what you got to practice when you're not feeling great. Eat what you can. Run while you eat. Eat in between your breaks. You know, if you do 12 miles, do 6 miles, and then eat something significant, solid food. For me, I need solid food. If goos work for you, or electrolytes, you can do the whole thing on that, whatever. But I truly believe you need to practice eating. Most people that go from a short distance runners or from marathons to ultras aren't used to eating as much as they need to sustain them for a long distance race. Tip number 8 for training for an ultra is pace somebody. Go out to find somebody who's looking for a pacer and pace any segment of 100 especially, and you'll get a good feel for the race, and you'll get a good taste of doing, you know, 20, maybe 30 miles. And that's how I got into all this. My brother suckered me into pacing him at Wasatch, and I fell in love with the sport and got a good taste of it and realized that I could do it. And tip number 9 for preparing for an ultra marathon is do small races. You need to have some build-up races, or they could be events, they could be just something that you do. But if you're going out to do a 50 miler and you've never done anything less than that other than a 5K, you should probably go out and do a 50K and just plan your calendar so you can do that, or a shorter distance race to prepare you for the longer distance. It doesn't have to be a scheduled event, a real event. You can just make it up, but you need to have some build-ups. Don't go out and try to run a 50 miler or 100 with no build-up races. If you're planning to do a 100 miler, then do a 50K and do a 50 miler. Spread them out in your calendar. Spend a year building up to that. It'll pay off, I promise. Tip number 10 for how to prepare for a 100 miler or an ultra marathon is sign up. You got to register. You got to make that commitment. That doesn't mean you can do it off the couch, but if you have enough foresight, you sign up 6 months, a year in advance, you then are committed, and then you've got to do all this work that I just talked about to get to the start line, and then that'll get you to the finish line. All right, good luck. It's a great experience. I wish you all the best. You can do it. Doing your first 50K, first 50 miler, first 100 miler, first 200 miler. There's just nothing like it. So many cherished memories from those benchmark races for me. And remember, you can do it. Just train and follow these tips. Know your own body, know what you need so that you can be successful and you can enjoy most of the experience.